Hi, I'm Pastor Ken Shorley at the Market Street Presbyterian Church in Lima, Ohio. And I'm in my office, the pastor's study, and behind me is a beautiful painting of a simple village. And I looked at the house and I got to thinking about the number of years I have spent living in houses that are owned by the church. In the Scottish tradition, they are called manse. The Methodist tradition refers to them as parsonage. So I want to tell you about living in a manse in the pastorate where I served in the mountains, the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, located not too far from Lexington, Virginia, and not too far from Roanoke or Lynchburg, Virginia. So I was up in the mountains. And let me tell you about that story. So I was living in the mountains in a manse, and I was worried about mice coming into the basement area. And I decided to get what are called glue boards and put them by the door that went to the outside, so that if a mouse crawled underneath the door, the mouse would be trapped on the glue board. So for quite some time, a few weeks, there was never anything of significance that was captured on the glue board. And then one day I went down to the basement, and lo and behold, there was a black snake trapped on the glue boards on the inside of the manse. And the snake was probably about 5 feet long. Of course, I panicked. But after dealing with the snake, I began to think about how in the world did that snake crawl under the door and get inside. And of course, many people have told me stories of how they can squeeze through any little tiny hole. But still, I was greatly puzzled. How could this large 5-foot black snake end up on my glue boards in the basement on the inside of the door? So I set out new glue boards, thinking I better still be more careful about whatever I might find. And lo and behold, I went down one day and I had captured 2 black snakes on my giant glue boards. Well, now I began to reason. I don't think they came from outside inside. Logic tells me they were actually inside the house. So I inspected the basement area and discovered that there was a large opening window-like structure that had been left open because it was on the inside, but it proceeded under the utility room. In other words, the open window-like structure was not open to the outside walls. Then I began to think, well, what if there was an opening on the outside and got it into that area that went underneath the utility room? And lo and behold, I discovered a significant opening on the outside, which meant black snakes could travel freely from outside to inside. And they had an extremely large area underneath the utility room And later, upon inspection, I found out that also went underneath the garage area. Friends, it was a snake pit. And I had been living in a home whereby there was free access for the black snakes to travel from outside to inside. Well, immediately I pushed the panic button and I got assistants to come over and seal the hole from the outside of the manse to the inside, and then to seal the window that was in the basement area. Now remember, that window was not a window that went to the outside, but it went underneath the utility room. And then I proceeded to find any tiny little hole that could be sealed. And I used cement and I used spray foam, everything. For a number of years, I would say about 3.5 years, these snakes had frequent access in and out of the manse, in the bottom, in the basement area. And it was completely unknown to me of what was happening until I put down those glue boards. So that was in the mountains of Virginia, and that was my experience, having resided in a home where the black snakes freely roamed. Incidentally, I talked to several people who made repairs in homes, roofers, electricians, and they informed me that in the mountains, most people actually had them residing somewhere because of carelessness, and possibly up in the walls, or possibly, like my case, underneath the utility room, underneath the garage. It's not uncommon for folks who live in the mountains. So just a warning, if you're watching this video, seal all openings in your home. You may not be subjected to the size of snakes I was subjected to, but you could possibly be subjected to any critter to come into your home area. And that brings to mind in the Holy Scriptures of what happened to Israel. And they journeyed by the way of the Red Sea to the land of Edom. And the people was much discouraged because of the way. And the people spake against God and spake against Moses. Wherefore ye have brought us out of Egypt to die in the wilderness, for there's no bread, and neither is there water, and our soul loatheth this bread. So what does God do? Well, let's read. And the Lord sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people much, and people of Israel died. Therefore the people came to Moses and said, We have sinned, we have spoken against the Lord and against thee. Pray unto the Lord that you take away the serpents from us. And Moses prayed for the people. And the Lord said unto Moses, Make a fiery serpent, or bronze serpent, and put it on a pole. And it shall be, and it shall come to pass, that every one that looketh upon it shall live. And Moses made a serpent of brass, and put it on a pole, and it came to pass that if a serpent had bitten any man, when he beheld the serpent of brass, he lived. So that was my experience of living among serpents. Many people know John 3:16, but they never look at John 3:14 and 15, which tells us, as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so must the Son of Man be lifted up. And actually, that incident that I described to you from the book of Numbers, chapter 21, is the basis of the cross of Jesus, the bronze serpent, whereby people looked at the bronze serpent and the poison was taken out of their lives. And even so, the poison of sin can be taken out of our lives by looking at the cross of Jesus and believing. Thank you for watching Wanderings in the Wilderness with Pastor Ken.